She's just the design side. That one sentence shattered everything she thought they were. He said it with a smirk, in front of everyone. Relate, have you ever poured yourself into someone, believed in them, stood beside them, and watched them act like you were invisible the moment they got a little power? This story isn't about revenge. It's about a woman who kept her dignity while carrying the truth alone. A truth that came back 5 years later. With the same eyes as the man who walked away, would you forgive someone who once mocked you, if their child looked exactly like them and called you mommy? This is Mr. Charles Stories. If you believe in earned love, life lessons, and redemption with a price, hit that like button, comment below if you've ever been dismissed by someone who didn't know your worth, and don't forget to subscribe. Before she was a name on a screen, Vanessa was a girl from Harlem with braids that never quite obeyed her edges and ideas that outpaced most men twice her age. She knew tech before it was cool, design before it became luxury, and integrity before anyone around her could spell it. Her mother raised her to build, never beg. That's why, when she landed a spot at a black-owned design firm that consulted with rising tech founders, she wasn't surprised. She was good, not lucky. That's also how she met him, Terrence. Silicon Valley's golden boy, with a Stanford degree, teeth like perfection, and ambitions so thick it made rooms uncomfortable. His software was decent, but his branding sucked. He needed design. He needed her. And for a while, it was just that. Late-night UI strategy Zoom calls, side-note corrections, no-nonsense professionalism. But then came the dinner meeting, the bourbon on his breath, the "I've never met a mind like yours" line. And soon after, her body in his bed. They kept it secret. Not because she wanted to, but because he insisted. Investors don't understand nuance, he told her once while buttoning his shirt. You know how white these rooms are. Still, he kissed her on her forehead, brought her flowers when she worked late, called her Ness like he owned the nickname. She was falling, stupidly. Softly, fully. She'd helped overhaul his brand, sharpen his decks, polish his pitch, and even brainstorm the name of his new health startup, PulseLink. He once said, "You're my edge." She believed him. It was supposed to be her first time speaking at a pitch event with him. She'd rehearsed her lines, wore a navy blazer, and tucked her emotions into professionalism. The room buzzed with investors and cameras. Terrence looked sharp in a charcoal suit. She stood beside him, one hand on the mock-up tablet. Then came the question from a venture capitalist. "So, is she like your assistant or something?" The room chuckled. Vanessa turned to Terrence, expecting him to correct the insult, lift her up like he always promised. Instead, he smiled and said, "She's just the design side. She helps out." That was it. Not co-creator, not partner, not even lead designer. Just helps out. Vanessa's heart didn't break loudly. It cracked like quiet glass. She stood still, blinking, holding back the storm inside her. She didn't make a scene. That would have made it easier for him. Instead, she walked off the stage afterward, unplugged her tablet, and handed it to him. "You really said that?" she asked, voice low. He glanced around. "Ness, you know how these rooms are. You don't fit the profile. It's branding." She blinked. "So, I'm not marketable?" "That's not what I said." She stepped back. "Yes, it is." He exhaled. "Look, you're great, but people make assumptions. We're building something real here. You know how much that matters." She shook her head, lips trembling. "I thought I mattered." "You do, just not in public, right?" He didn't answer. She picked up her tote bag and walked out. She didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't tell him she was a month late on her period. She just left, quietly, like a woman who realized her worth mid-fall. Back in Harlem, she packed. Not just her things, but her shame, her disappointment, her disbelief. She didn't return his texts. She didn't wait for an apology. She took the first freelance contract she could find in Baltimore and left. Moved into a one-bedroom apartment with cracked tiles and potential. Then, 2 weeks later, the pregnancy test turned positive. She stood in that bathroom, barefoot, staring at the pink lines, feeling like the universe was mocking her. But she didn't cry. She placed her hand on her stomach and whispered, "You're not a mistake. He is." Raising Skylar wasn't easy. There were nights of formula tears and mornings of missed deadlines. But Vanessa never resented her daughter. Not once. Skylar had her mother's focus and her father's smile. Her brown skin glowed under sunlight. She had a giggle that could melt the hardest day. Vanessa built a life, piece by piece. Client by client, diaper by diaper. She never chased Terence, never put his name on the birth certificate, never badmouthed him, even when Skylar started asking, "Why don't I have a daddy like the cartoons?" She just smiled and said, "You have something better. You have me." Every now and then, Terence would pop up on an article, a headline, a podcast clip. Forbes 30 under 30. TechCrunch interviews. LinkedIn posts with thousands of likes. Vanessa would delete the app every time his face showed up. But she never blocked him. She didn't need to. She wasn't hiding. He just wasn't looking. When her non-profit client invited her to DC for their tech gala, she almost declined. But the exposure mattered, and Skylar begged to come. "I'll stay in the kids' zone, Mommy. Please." She dressed in a navy jumpsuit that made her feel like she hadn't given birth, hadn't been betrayed, hadn't aged 5 years from struggle. Skylar wore sparkly sneakers and carried her little notebook with stickers. Vanessa kissed her forehead. "Stay close. 5 minutes, okay?" They entered the ballroom. She scanned the room for faces she knew. And that's when it happened. A wine glass slipped slightly. A man across the room blinked like he'd seen a ghost. It was him, Terence, 5 years later. Have you ever had someone pretend you didn't matter in front of others? What would you do if they saw the child you raised alone, who looked exactly like them? Tell us in the comments. If you want to know what happens when Terence walks over and speaks to the daughter he never knew existed, hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. Baltimore wasn't home, but it didn't have memories of him, and that made it safer than Harlem. Vanessa arrived with a suitcase, a laptop, and the quiet flutter of life forming inside her. The one bedroom she rented off Edmondson Avenue wasn't much. A slanted kitchen, floor, a leaky faucet, and neighbors who played music too loud at 2 a.m. But it was hers. No one would mock her here. No one would make her feel small. She stacked freelance gigs like Tetris, logo designs, app audits, even brochures for a local church. Rent came in waves. She always paid late, but she always paid. And every morning before she logged on, she'd press a palm against her belly and whisper, "We've got this, you and me." Labor hit like betrayal. Fast, sharp, unforgiving. The hospital room smelled sterile and too bright. No one held her hand. No one paced outside the door. She screamed through it alone. At 3:47 a.m., Skylar Monroe entered the world with lungs, louder than Terence's ego, and eyes that dared Vanessa not to cry. She didn't cry at the hospital. She cried 3 nights later, holding Skylar against her chest on the couch, realizing there was no one to say, "We did it." So she whispered it to her daughter instead. "We did it, baby. We did it." Skylar yawned. Vanessa laughed. That's how their bond was born. The first year blurred. Milk stains, midnight feedings, postpartum spirals she didn't talk about. Her body didn't bounce back. Her confidence didn't either. But her mind, still sharp, still building. Between bottles and burp cloths, Vanessa coded landing pages, rewired brand, kits, and slowly carved a new name for herself. Quietly, digitally. She'd nurse Skylar while watching YouTube UX case studies. She'd nap in 20-minute stretches between client calls. Some days she collapsed. But she never quit. By Skylar's first birthday, they had a new apartment, 2 bedrooms this time. Still modest, but brighter, with plants, and sunlight, and laughter. Vanessa decorated Skylar's first cake with alphabet sprinkles and posted the photo to a private IG account only she followed. Caption, "Still no father. But look what I made." Skylar turned 3 and started asking. Mummy, why don't I have a daddy like Kayla at daycare? Vanessa froze the first time. Skylar was holding a drawing, 3 stick figures, Mommy, Skylar, and a blank space. She knelt down and said, "Some kids have daddies, some don't, but you have someone who loves you enough for 2. Skylar frowned. "But what if I want a daddy too?" Vanessa swallowed the lump in her throat. "Then you pray for someone good enough to deserve you." Terrence's name was never said aloud, but his presence haunted silently. One afternoon, Vanessa scrolled LinkedIn for a job lead, and there he was. Again, Terrence Grant, PulseLink named among top 10 health startups of the year. She stared at his smile, the same one Skylar used when she asked for extra bedtime stories. Her chest tightened. She exited the app, deleted it, again. It wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't even about anger. It was about how someone could erase you in public and still get rewarded for building on your bones. By the time Skylar was 5, she had her mother's stubbornness and her father's sarcasm. Vanessa had found community through a non-profit that paired single mothers with tech retraining and microgrants. She wasn't a beginner, but the exposure helped. Her name started circulating, quietly, softly. One day, the program director pulled her aside. "We've got a tech gala in DC next month," she said. "They're asking for consultants and panelists who've made something out of nothing." Vanessa blinked. "Me? Yes. You?" She almost said no, because Terrence lived in DC now, and Skylar still hadn't learned how to stop asking about daddies. But something inside her, maybe rage, maybe pride, said yes. Vanessa braided Skylar's hair the night before the event. She sat on the floor, Skylar between her knees. The TV played old cartoons. The apartment smelled like shea butter and lavender oil. "Mummy, do I look fancy?" Vanessa smiled. "You look unstoppable." Skylar twirled in her glittery sneakers. "Will there be other kids?" "There's a playroom. Can I stay with you instead?" Vanessa paused, then nodded, just for a little while. She laid out her navy jumpsuit and a gold locket Skylar gave her last Christmas, the one with a drawing of them inside. Vanessa stared at it before bed. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew who she was now. The gala venue was bigger than she expected. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, polished floors. Skylar held her hand tightly. "Don't let go, okay?" "Never," Vanessa said. The coordinator ushered her in. She checked her name badge. It read, "Vanessa Monroe, Senior UI Consultant, no assistant, no sidekick, no lowercase title." They stepped into the ballroom together. She scanned the crowd casually, until her breath caught in her chest. Across the room, Terrence, laughing, toasting, glowing in success, until he turned and saw Skylar. Everything inside him halted. Wineglass tilted, mouth parted, smile faded. Skylar looked up. "Mummy, why is that man staring at us?" Vanessa's heart raced, but her face, calm. "That's just someone I used to know." Terrence's world didn't slow down often, but it did the second he saw her. Vanessa, and beside her a child, small, confident, gripping her hand, wearing gold sneakers, eyes wide and curious. Eyes. His. He blinked once, hoping it was a trick of the light. But it wasn't. His brain tried to connect logic to emotion. His feet refused to move. His body remembered things his heart had buried. The last time he saw Vanessa, she'd left his condo with silence instead of screams, power instead of pain. And now, she was standing 20 feet away, holding a little girl with his exact shade of brown eyes. Vanessa didn't flinch. She saw him the second he spotted her. She saw the confusion twist his features, the terror behind the charm, the disbelief behind the swagger. But she didn't look away. She lifted her chin, nodded once, and placed her hand protectively across Skylar's back. "Mommy," Skylar whispered, "that man keeps staring at us." Vanessa bent down. "Then we won't stare back. Come on, let's grab a juice." She turned, calm, poised, untouchable. Terence's body moved before his brain gave permission. He cut across the ballroom, ignoring the people calling his name. Vanessa. She paused, turned around slowly. Her eyes didn't blink. Her voice didn't shake. Yes? Terence stood 2 feet in front of her. The noise around them disappeared. All he could hear was his pulse and the tiny voice holding her hand. She's your daughter. Vanessa didn't move. Her name is Skylar. He crouched, eyes wet before he could stop them. Hey there, Skylar. Skylar tilted her head. Do I know you? He let out a choked laugh. I don't think so. But you look just like someone I used to know. Skylar turned to Vanessa. Mommy, who is he? Before she could answer, Terence stood up. I'm a friend of your mom's. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Terence cleared his throat. A long time ago. Vanessa nodded toward the drinks table. Sky, go grab that mango juice you like. I'll be right here. Skylar skipped off. Terence exhaled. She's mine. It wasn't a question. Vanessa didn't correct him. He blinked, fast. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want your apology, she said. I wanted your respect, and you made it clear I didn't fit your world. His face twisted. Vanessa, I was young. I was scared. I thought I was doing what I had to. Mocking me in front of investors. She cut in. His mouth closed. I left before I begged. That's the difference between us, Terence. You wanted control. I wanted peace. He watched Skylar giggle with another kid at the drink table. She spilled a little juice on her dress, gasped, wiped it with a napkin, just like Vanessa always did. I missed everything, he whispered. Vanessa looked him over. You weren't ready then. You didn't even ask if I was okay when I walked out. He nodded. I know. And now I'm standing here, trying to breathe, while she looks at me like a stranger. Vanessa's eyes didn't soften. She doesn't know who you are, and that's not her fault. He nodded again. Is it too late? That depends on who you're showing up for, your guilt or your daughter. A voice over the speaker called for the panelists to prep backstage. Vanessa glanced at her watch. I have to speak in 20 minutes. Terence stepped back. Can I talk to you after? She met his eyes. You can try. Skylar returned with sticky fingers and a wide grin. Mommy, can we see the robots later? Vanessa smiled. Yes, after I finish speaking. Terence leaned down, his voice gentle. Bye, Skylar. Skylar gave a polite wave. Bye, mister. Vanessa turned, her heels clicking as she led her daughter forward, shoulders square, spine tall. Terence watched them go, heart pounding like he'd just survived a car crash. Terence didn't return to his table. He found a corner near the ballroom exit and sat down, his mind spinning. How could he have missed it? Vanessa's glow that night at the conference, the fatigue she hid, the quiet decision behind her silence. He had spent years pretending he was untouched by her leaving. Now he felt like every part of his legacy stood on sand. Skylar had his smile, his nose, his brows when she concentrated, but her laugh, that was all Vanessa, pure and warm and self-made. After the gala, Terence sat in his hotel room for hours, then typed her name into every platform he could find. No public accounts, no tags. She had erased herself from anything connected to him. He called an old colleague. She left New York a long time ago, they said. Last I heard, she was in Baltimore doing design consulting. Terence opened his email, typed a subject line. Please, just talk to me. He wrote a full page, deleted it, wrote again, deleted again. Eventually, he wrote just this. I saw her. I saw you. I need to talk. Please. He hit send, then waited. No reply. The next morning, Vanessa replied. One line. You made your choice. I respected it. Please respect mine. No anger. No emotion. Just boundary. Terence stared at the screen. He had crafted boardroom speeches, closed million-dollar deals. But that single sentence unraveled him. He put his phone down, then picked it back up. He booked a flight to Baltimore. He didn't pack a suit. He didn't call his assistant. He was done trying to manage this like a business deal. This wasn't about Vanessa's pride or his guilt. This was about Skylar and the years he'd never get back. Vanessa didn't flinch when she saw him again. It was a Tuesday, mid-afternoon. Cloudy, humid, slow. She had just finished her last client call at the community center and stepped out for fresh air with a cup of mint tea. And there he was, leaning against a black rental car. No driver, no camera crew, just him, Terence, in jeans and a hoodie, hair a little longer, eyes heavier. She didn't blink. She sipped her tea and said, "You flew here." He stood up slowly. "I needed to. I didn't invite you." "I know." Silence. Then she said what she meant. "This is not okay." He nodded. "Can I talk to you? 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Vanessa looked down the block. She could hear the children playing on the other side of the center's fence. Skylar was still inside, in the art room. She didn't move, but she didn't walk away either. After a moment, she sighed. Across the street, the bench under the elm tree, Terence followed. They sat at opposite ends, far enough to make it clear this wasn't a reunion. She crossed her legs, tilted her chin. "Speak." He didn't launch into a speech. He looked down at his hands, rubbed them together, then finally said, "I'm sorry." She waited. "For what?" she asked plainly. Terence took a breath. "For erasing you. For pretending you didn't matter. For disrespecting you in front of people who had no right to judge. And for not looking for you after you left." Vanessa tilted her head. "And," he nodded slowly, "and for not being there for Skylar." Her lip tightened slightly. A small shift, but not forgiveness. "I didn't even know." She cut him off. "That's not the excuse you think it is. I didn't tell you because I watched you fold under pressure," Vanessa said, her voice calm but piercing. "You didn't flinch when they laughed at me. You flinched at the idea of standing beside me. That told me everything I needed." Terence swallowed hard. "I was scared," he admitted. "I was stupid. I thought I had to choose between my image and—" "And what?" she snapped. "Integrity? Humanity? You threw me away to protect a room full of men who still wouldn't have shaken your hand if you looked like me." He stayed quiet. "I didn't need your last name. I needed your loyalty." She let the words hang in the air. "I wasn't going to raise a child around someone who hid me like shame." Terence didn't fight back, didn't argue, didn't justify. Instead, he asked softly, "What was she like, as a baby?" That caught Vanessa off guard. She looked away for a second, then back. She cried like she was announcing a revolution, had colic for 6 months straight, didn't sleep through the night until her first birthday. But she always reached for me. Even when she couldn't talk yet, she knew I was her whole world. Terence blinked fast, and I missed all of it. "Yes," Vanessa said. "And she didn't." Terence leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I've been thinking about the last 5 years," he said. "All the conferences, the interviews, the awards. And not once did I feel whole. Not once did I wake up and feel proud without remembering the look on your face that night." She said nothing. "I thought success would cover the cost, but it didn't. It just exposed the debt." Vanessa's jaw tightened. "You think this is about your guilt. It's not. This is about her, the little girl with the heart I protected while you played golden boy. I want to make it right." She shook her head. "You can't make it right. You can only show up now, and never stop. You don't get points for flying here," she said. "You don't get points for apologizing. Showing up is the bare minimum." He nodded. "I know." She looked him dead in the eyes. "I don't need a CO parent who wants to feel better. I need a father who's willing to feel uncomfortable." Terence blinked. "I am. We'll see." He let that sit, then asked, "Can I see her again?" Vanessa didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. She stood. "You'll be at the center at 3:30, same time I pick her up. No gifts, no sugar, no surprises." Terence stood too. "Okay. She doesn't know who you are. Don't make promises you won't keep." "I won't." Vanessa walked away without turning back. Terence stood under the elm tree, staring at the bench where Truth cracked his ego open. He didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a man begging the world for a do-over. But the difference was, this time, he wasn't asking for Vanessa's love. He was asking for her trust, and he knew that would take more than words. Back inside the center, Skylar ran toward Vanessa with a paper in hand. "Mummy, look at my rocket ship." Vanessa crouched. "Wow. That's beautiful. Can we build one like it at home? Maybe this weekend?" Skylar tilted her head. "Was that the man who waved at me at the party?" Vanessa hesitated. "Yes." Skylar blinked. "Is he your friend?" Vanessa smiled. "He's someone who's trying to be." Skylar grinned. "Then maybe he can build rockets too." Vanessa kissed her forehead. "We'll see, baby. We'll see." Terence showed up the next day at 3:30 sharp. No bouquet, no designer suit, just jeans, a white tee, and worn-out sneakers. He stood near the back of the community center's pickup area, arms crossed, quiet. Not trying to be seen, not performing. Just showing up. Vanessa clocked him immediately through the window of the art room. She didn't acknowledge him. Neither did Skylar. He didn't walk inside or knock. He stood under the narrow awning, watching the doors, rain gently falling around him. She picked Skylar up, grabbed her mini backpack, and walked outside without a word. Skylar noticed him, tilted her head. "Hi, Mr." Terence crouched. "Hey there, Skylar." "Cool backpack." She smiled. "It's unicorns. I see that." Vanessa unlocked the car door. "Let's go, Sky." Skylar climbed in, humming. Terence stepped back. Didn't ask for a ride. Didn't ask for time. He just nodded once. "Thanks for letting me stand here." Vanessa said nothing. Then she drove away. It became a thing. Terence started showing up every weekday at 3:30, sometimes earlier, always dressed down, always quiet. Rain or sun, he stood under the awning, hands in his pockets. Sometimes he brought a book. Sometimes he helped a kid pick up a dropped notebook. He never forced a conversation. He never hovered. He waited. Every day. Vanessa didn't speak to him, but she noticed how Skylar began looking for him from the classroom window. One afternoon, Skylar said, "Is Mr. gonna be there today?" Vanessa paused. "He might." Skylar nodded thoughtfully. "He stands like he's waiting for a bus." Vanessa laughed for the first time in weeks. "Yeah, he does." One of the program directors noticed. "You know that man keeps coming," she told Vanessa. "I know. He asked if he could help out, volunteer. Said he'd mop floors or pass out snacks." Vanessa raised a brow. "Did he?" "He ended up helping a kid fix a broken robot for the STEM class. Stayed quiet. Didn't name drop. Honestly, I thought he was one of the maintenance dads until a parent Googled him." Vanessa didn't respond. "You okay with it?" the director asked gently. Vanessa sipped her tea. "I haven't said I'm not." A week later, Skylar ran up to Vanessa during pickup, gripping a cardboard box. "Look, I made a spaceship." Terence stood behind her, holding tape and a pair of safety scissors. His shirt had smears of glue. A marker cap was stuck in his pocket. Vanessa folded her arms. "And who helped you?" Skylar grinned. "Him." Terence smiled sheepishly. "She's got solid engineering instincts." Skylar giggled. He said, "Girls build better ships." Vanessa knelt. "Did you have fun?" "Yup. He didn't even get mad when I spilled glitter on his pants." Terence chuckled. "It's still there, actually." Vanessa glanced at his pants. Sure enough, silver glitter sparkled under the light. "Serves you right," she said without smiling. He shrugged. "I deserved worse." It rained hard the following Thursday. Baltimore skies opened up in sheets. Parents crowded under umbrellas. Terence was already soaked by the time Vanessa arrived. He didn't run for shelter. He stayed at the edge of the awning, watching the door, water soaking through his hoodie. Vanessa rushed Skylar out, holding her own coat over her daughter's head. "Mummy, my socks." Skylar laughed as puddles swallowed her glitter shoes. Terence stepped forward. I parked close. You can take my umbrella. Vanessa paused. Took it. Thanks. They walked to her car in silence, Skylar giggling under the shield. Terence stayed behind, still in the rain. As Vanessa clicked Skylar's seatbelt in, Skylar leaned forward. Mummy, yes? Can he come with us? Vanessa blinked. What? Skylar pointed back toward Terence. The glue pants man. Can he come? Vanessa's heart dropped. She closed the door slowly and turned around. Terence was already backing away. She approached him. Did you say something to her? No, never. I wouldn't. She asked if you could come with us. Terence's eyes softened. And? I said nothing. Terence stayed silent, hands by his side. Vanessa looked him over, soaked, tired, completely undone. Get in the car. The ride home was slow. Skylar sang to herself in the back seat. Terence stayed quiet in the passenger seat. Vanessa drove with both hands, eyes forward. You still live in that same apartment? He asked. No. Moved 2 years ago. Better neighborhood? Quieter. He nodded. Skylar interrupted from the back. I have my own room. It's purple. Terence turned. That's a great color. Vanessa's lips twitched. She picked it herself. Every inch. She got taste. She got me. That ended the conversation. Vanessa parked in front of a modest duplex with planters lining the stairs. The porch light was already on. Skylar jumped out first. Can we make grilled cheese, Mummy? Yep. Go wash your hands. As Skylar ran inside, Vanessa stood at the bottom of the steps. Terence stayed still. She folded her arms. You waited in the rain? I would have waited in snow. She raised a brow. Don't test me. Baltimore's weather is petty. He smiled. So, are you? That made her laugh. A tiny breath. He took a step forward. Vanessa, don't. She lifted a hand. I let you come with us. That's it. Don't make it more. He nodded slowly. Okay. Vanessa exhaled. If you want to be in her life, you don't do it by coming around me. I'm not here to chase you. You better not be. Because if you ruin her peace like you ruined mine, I'll make sure you never see either of us again. Terence's voice cracked. I'm not going anywhere. She stared at him. That's the first time you've said that, and I believe it. He blinked hard. Thank you. She opened the door. You can stand here until I wave you off. But don't knock unless you're bleeding or Skylar calls you. Terence placed his hand over his heart. Understood. Vanessa walked inside. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Skylar waved to him through the living room window, her tiny hand pressed against the glass. Behind her, Vanessa poured water into a pan. He waved back. She mouthed, Bye, mister. He smiled. Bye, Sky. The door closed. He stood outside for a moment longer, letting the rain wash off years of pride, arrogance, and absence. Then finally, he turned and walked back to his car. Not as a CEO, not as a man looking for redemption, but as a father who finally understood what presence looked like. This is Mr. Charles Stories. If you believe that healing is possible, even after deep wounds, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. Terence didn't speak much. He no longer asked Vanessa to talk. He didn't try to sit next to her at the center, didn't hover over Skylar with forced affection, didn't post cryptic photos or quote anything about fatherhood. He simply kept showing up. Day after day, he returned with rolled-up sleeves and calloused humility. He helped stack chairs, washed out paintbrushes, repaired ripped bean bags, took out trash. Vanessa watched from her desk some days, watched how he stayed late without being asked, how he let Skylar speak first, how he never made anything about himself. Baltimore locals stopped whispering after the second week. Most of them didn't even know who he was beyond Skylar's volunteer friend, and that's exactly how he wanted it. It had been nearly a month since the day Skylar asked, Can he come with us? Since then, he hadn't stepped foot past Vanessa's porch. He had stood outside 3 times, holding an umbrella, waiting to wave. At Skylar as she looked out the window with toothpaste on her chin. He brought a new storybook every Monday. left it in a brown paper bag with Skylar's name written in Sharpie. No notes, no expectations. Vanessa returned each bag the following Friday. Empty, clean, no words exchanged. But one Tuesday evening, something shifted. Vanessa exited the center at 5:47 p.m., Skylar skipping, behind her with glitter on her cheek and crayon-stained fingers. Terence stood near the fence, holding a tray of food containers. Vanessa stopped. "You trying to bribe me with takeout now?" He smiled gently. "Skylar said you like sweet potato fries. The lady who sells them at Lexington Market was closing early." She looked at the tray. "Is there ketchup?" Terence nodded. Vanessa unlocked her car. "Then don't just stand there." At home, the kitchen smelled like thyme and soft oil. Skylar sat at the table, feet swinging, ketchup smeared on her chin. "These are better than mine, Mommy." "They should be," Vanessa muttered. "They came in a box." Terence took off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. "Where do you keep your dish soap?" "In the cabinet left of the sink." He found it and began scrubbing without asking. Vanessa plated the rest of the fries, dropped a few on his napkin. Not an offering, just efficient hosting. They moved around each other like Keogh workers in a break room, polite, efficient, careful not to bump elbows. Skylar watched cartoons in the next room. They heard her laugh occasionally, high, free, full of peace. Terence looked over once and whispered, "She's the best thing I never knew I needed." Vanessa didn't respond. After dishes were done, Skylar pulled out her drawing kit and sprawled across the floor, legs crossed, tongue poking out of the side of her mouth as she drew. Terence sat on the far end of the rug, silently handing her crayons as she reached for them. Vanessa sat on the couch, tired, eyes heavy. She held a glass of water in her lap and watched them both. Skylar whispered something. Terence leaned in, then burst out laughing. Quietly, but real. Vanessa blinked. It had been years since she'd heard that laugh. Not the fake pitch deck chuckle, the real one, the boyish, unguarded one. She looked away. Skylar eventually drifted off between them. Crayons scattered. A half-drawn rainbow tucked under her fingers. Terence gently draped a blanket over her shoulders. "She's knocked out," he whispered. Vanessa nodded. They sat in the soft glow of the lamp. A silence so thick it could be mistaken for intimacy. But it wasn't. It was weight, memory, forgiveness, still loading. Vanessa finally said, "You know why I let you in today?" Terence didn't answer. She continued, "Because she smiled today like she used to." Before the questions, Terence blinked back something in his eyes. Vanessa turned toward him slightly. "If you ruin that smile again, I will walk away without looking back. I've done it once. I'll do it faster the second time." Terence swallowed. "I won't. You don't get to swear this time." He nodded slowly. "Then, I'll show it." They sat like that for 20 more minutes. No flirting, no closeness. Terence sat with his back against the cabinet, Vanessa with one foot tucked beneath her on the couch. Skylar snored lightly between them. Vanessa reached down and picked up Skylar's drawing, half a rainbow, one half-colored sun, and 3 stick figures, one taller, 2 smaller, all holding hands. She showed it to Terence without a word. He took it in, eyes scanning every crayon stroke like scripture. "She drew 3 people," he said quietly. "She never used to," Vanessa replied. Terence folded the paper and placed it on the coffee table like it was glass. At 9:16 p.m., Vanessa stood up. "She'll wake up in 2 hours hungry and cranky." Terence smiled. "I'll head out." He reached for his jacket, walked to the door. Vanessa didn't follow. She didn't offer another drink. She didn't say goodnight, but she didn't say leave either. He turned the knob, then stopped. "Thank you," he said. Vanessa stayed seated. "For what?" "For letting me be in the room," she laughs in. Then he left, quietly. Vanessa sat for 5 more minutes, then leaned down, picked up Skylar, and carried her to bed. The next morning, Skylar brushed her teeth and pressed her face to the window as usual. Terence wasn't there. Vanessa poured coffee and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then he appeared, but instead of standing still, he waved once, then walked away. Skylar frowned. Why's he leaving? Vanessa sipped her coffee. He came to show he was here, not to stay forever. Skylar watched until he turned the corner. Vanessa didn't say it out loud, but for the first time, she missed him standing there. That evening, her phone buzzed. "Terence, did I overstay last night? If so, I'm sorry. I just didn't want to leave too early and seem like I didn't care. I'm learning." Vanessa stared at the screen for a long time. She typed, deleted, typed again, then sent, "Vanessa, you stayed just enough. But next time, bring your own dish soap. I'm not running a hotel." 3 dots appeared. "Terence, copy that. I'll bring lemon scented." 3 nights later, he came back. No takeout. Just brought Skylar a book and helped her build a paper kite out of cardboard and string. Vanessa made grilled cheese again. This time, they talked about Skylar's favorite color, about her math obsession, about how she hums in her sleep. They didn't talk about the past, because healing isn't always words. Sometimes, it's just showing up. Sometimes, it's silence with intention. Sometimes, it's knowing when to sit close and when to stand back. Terence learned more about parenting in the first week of showing up than he had in 35 years of life. It wasn't the big gestures. It wasn't knowing how to build a cardboard rocket or buying the right storybook. It was watching Vanessa handle a meltdown in aisle 7 of the grocery store. Skylar in tears over a cereal box with glitter marshmallows without yelling. It was seeing how she lowered herself to Skylar's eye level and calmly said, "You can feel upset, but we're not bringing home sugar that makes you wild." And Skylar, grumpy, sniffling, put the box back on the shelf without a tantrum. Terence had been silent, pushing the cart, watching in awe. Afterward, in the car, he whispered, "That was impressive." Vanessa smirked. She respects consistency, not bribes. "You'll figure it out." They started co-managing Skylar's school drop-offs on Mondays and Thursdays. Terence was often 5 minutes early, sometimes 10. He carried an extra hair tie on his wrist, just in case, and kept her favorite cinnamon granola bar in the glove compartment. He didn't try to force fatherhood. He just stayed near. Skylar began hugging him goodbye at the school gate. Light at first, then tighter. Vanessa noticed. She said nothing, but when Skylar showed up one day with her hair braided down the middle and said, "Mr. T did it," Vanessa nearly choked on her coffee. "You did this." Terence raised both hands. YouTube and prayer. Vanessa laughed harder than she had in months. It was during a weekend painting event at the center. Skylar was elbow-deep in acrylics, smearing blue and orange streaks onto a canvas that looked vaguely like a rainbow and a pizza combined. Vanessa was talking with a program coordinator when she heard Skylar's voice from across the room. "Daddy, help me with the green." The room quieted. Vanessa froze. Terence blinked. Skylar didn't notice. She was focused on the paint. Terence walked over slowly, dipped the brush in green, and helped her finish the rainbow pizza. Later, as they packed up, Vanessa pulled him aside. "You heard it, right?" He nodded. "I did." She's never said that before. "I know." Vanessa stared at him for a long second. "Don't make her take it back." "I won't." Terence's mother called one night. Vanessa overheard part of the conversation from the kitchen. "I'm not hiding anything, Mom," he said, pacing the porch. "She didn't trick me. No, don't talk about her like that." Pause. "Her name is Vanessa, and your granddaughter's name is Skylar." Vanessa stopped drying the dishes. Her hands rested on the counter. She wasn't eavesdropping. She was listening for landmines. Terence walked in minutes later, eyes stormy. "I'm sorry you heard that. I wasn't listening for drama. She thinks I'm being manipulated." Vanessa nodded. "Most people assume a black woman with a child must be running game. She's wrong." Vanessa crossed her arms. "Then prove her wrong by showing up anyway." Terence exhaled. "I plan to." That week, Skylar caught a cold. Nothing major, but she was home for 2 days. Terence showed up at the door with children's cough syrup, a toy medical. "Kit, and a box of tissues with cartoon dinosaurs on the side. Vanessa gave him a side eye. You spoil her. She's going to expect this every time she sneezes. He laughed. Let me have this one. She watched him sit beside Skylar on the couch, pretending to be her patient. Skylar checked his heartbeat and told him he had daddy fever. Vanessa almost dropped the spoon she was using to stir soup. Later that night, as Terence packed up, he turned to her. Thank you for trusting me a little more each week. Vanessa shook her head. Don't thank me. Just keep doing it. On Skylar's 6th birthday, Vanessa had planned a quiet celebration. Cupcakes, pizza, paper hats, a few kids from the center. Terence didn't ask to come. He just showed up 2 hours early to help decorate. He brought extra balloons, juice boxes, and napkins with glitter stars. Vanessa met him at the door, arms folded. You trying to take over? He shook his head. Just backing you up. She watched him tape balloons to the ceiling, with Skylar giggling behind him, pretending to supervise. By the time the party started, no one questioned who he was. He didn't introduce himself as her father. He didn't need to. Everyone could see it in the way he watched Skylar open her gifts, clapped at her offbeat dance moves, and carried her when she got tired. After the last kid left, Vanessa found him sweeping. She took the broom from his hand. I can finish. He said nothing, just smiled, sat on the floor next to the pile of wrapping paper. Vanessa sat across from him. No words, no labels, just presence. That night, Skylar snuggled under her blanket, clutching a new stuffed bear Terence had brought. Vanessa kissed her forehead. Did you have a good birthday? The best. Vanessa smiled. You liked your cake? Mm-hmm. Skylar yawned. Mummy. Yes. Does he stay forever now? Vanessa blinked. We don't know yet, baby, she said softly. Skylar nodded. Okay. Then she whispered, eyes barely open. I want him to. Terence didn't leave that night. He didn't stay because of invitation. He stayed because Skylar fell asleep with his hand still in hers on the couch. Vanessa sat nearby, sipping tea, watching them both, her eyes heavy. Her walls, for once, not high, but curious. At 11:45 p.m., she whispered, If you're going to keep doing this. Terence turned to her. Then know this. There's no room for halfway. He nodded. I've already burned that bridge behind me. Vanessa leaned back, exhaled deeply, and didn't respond. But this time, when he stayed, she didn't flinch. It started with an invitation. Vanessa had just finished reviewing a non-profit mobile app redesign when her phone buzzed. The message preview read, Ference and PulseLink is being honored at the Innovate Baltimore Gala. I'd like you and Skylar to come, with me. She stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen. Her first instinct was no. Public wasn't safe. Public was where he once buried her in front of people who judged her skin, her voice, her hair, and her worth. But that was 5 years ago. This Terence. He showed up. He listened. He stood in the rain and wiped glitter off his pants. He tied Skylar's shoes and braided her hair, crooked, but still braided. She responded, Vanessa. I'll think about it. She did more than think. She researched the guest list, called a sitter as backup, and laid out 3 different outfits before Skylar walked into her room and pointed. That one, Skylar said, pointing to the simple black dress with gold accents. You like that one? Skylar nodded. You look like a queen in it. Vanessa smiled. Then it'll do. The night of the gala, Terence arrived in a navy suit, tie undone, holding flowers. She opened the door, took the flowers, handed them back. Those are for show, she said. We don't do show. He nodded and set them in the car trunk without a word. Skylar appeared in a white and gold dress, grinning. Terence crouched. You look like a star. She twirled. And Mommy's the sky. Vanessa smirked. Let's go. We're not there to impress. We're there to be. The ballroom buzzed with tech giants, political influencers, and venture capital sharks. Terence walked in first, his hand resting gently at Skylar's back. Vanessa walked beside them, head high, shoulders square, skin glowing under soft lighting. A hush followed them in. Not dramatic, but definite. People knew Terence. They remembered Vanessa's face vaguely, like a forgotten memory that suddenly made sense. A woman from a major startup blinked. "Is that?" Terence smiled. "Yes. That's Vanessa Monroe, my daughter's mother. And my guest. Not my assistant. Not someone who helps out. My guest." Vanessa caught the phrasing. She said nothing, but she heard it. Dinner was served. Terence introduced Vanessa by name. Never over-explained. He didn't hide Skylar's existence. When asked about family life, he said, "It's the hardest thing I've ever earned, and the best." Some of his old partners gave tight smiles. A few whispered into champagne flutes. One investor leaned in. "This your first public showing?" Terence smiled. "No. I've just never had anything worth showing until now." Vanessa didn't flinch, but she took a slow sip of her drink and tucked that moment in her back pocket. She arrived near dessert. Patricia Grant, Terence's mother, hair perfectly blown out, diamond earrings sharp enough to cut glass. She moved like wealth, with a tongue dipped in sugar and venom. Vanessa recognized her from old articles and one accidental meeting years ago, the day Patricia called her a design intern with delusions of intimacy. Patricia kissed Terence's cheek, ignored Vanessa, smiled at Skylar. "Well, well. She has your eyes," she said coolly. Skylar blinked. "And Mommy's nose." Terence placed his hand gently on Skylar's shoulder. "This is your grandmother." Skylar waved. "Hi." Patricia gave a shallow smile. "What a surprise." Vanessa stayed still. "Is it?" Over coffee, Patricia turned to Vanessa. "I'm sure this lifestyle is a change for you." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "You mean the air-conditioned ballroom or the invisible bias?" Terence choked on his water. Patricia blinked. "I mean, well, the company is different." Vanessa leaned in. "Only thing different is now I get introduced properly." Patricia's lips tightened. "I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to be tolerated." The tension thickened. Skylar munched cookies between them, blissfully unaware. Terence cleared his throat. "Mom, why don't we step outside?" On the balcony, Patricia crossed her arms. "This is reckless." Terence leaned against the railing. "Why?" "You're rebuilding something unstable. With a woman who vanished. With a child you didn't even know existed. Because of me," he said flatly. "Because I made her feel disposable. She humiliated you." "She saved me," Terence snapped. Patricia recoiled. "You're emotional." "I'm present," he said. "For the first time in my life." "She's not one of us." "She doesn't need to be," he replied. "She's herself. And that's more than most people in this room can say." Patricia went quiet. Terence looked out over the city. If you can't respect her, don't ask to see Skylar. When he returned, Vanessa was packing Skylar's crayons into her small purse. Her fingers were calm, but her posture was braced. He sat beside her. She didn't look at him. "She's never going to like me. She doesn't need to." Vanessa glanced at him. "But do you?" Terence met her eyes. "I don't need approval. I already found my peace." Vanessa held his gaze, then nodded. "Good, because Skylar's going to remember tonight." Terence leaned forward, elbows on the table. "And what about you?" "I remember everything." Back at her door, Vanessa held Skylar in one arm, keys in the other. Terence stood awkwardly on the step. "Thanks for coming." Vanessa paused. "You didn't hide us. I never will again." She looked at him for a long moment. "You held your ground with your mother." "I meant what I said." Vanessa nodded. "You're different." Terence took a deep breath. "Is different enough?" Vanessa unlocked the door. "We'll see." Before walking in, she turned. "She likes you. I'm still watching. I want you to." Vanessa stepped inside and shut the door. Terence stood on the porch for 5 minutes, smiling in the dark. Chapter 9. Her name is Skylar. 4,000 words. Terence hadn't touched a drop of alcohol since that gala night. It was his quiet vow. No more haze to mask regret. He wanted to feel everything, every second of what he missed, every inch of the road back to Vanessa and Skylar. He now lived in DC and took a small rental 10 blocks from Vanessa's apartment. She didn't ask for that. She didn't even acknowledge it, but he hoped she noticed. He kept volunteering at the community center, showing up on his assigned days, never overstepping. He taught the kids basic coding, often sitting cross-legged on the carpet as Skylar and the others huddled around him. They made apps about cupcakes and space, monsters. Every time he looked at Skylar, he saw a new layer, not just of her face, which mirrored his so closely, but of her mind. She was sharp, observant, and quick with her hands, like Vanessa. Vanessa never interrupted their time, but she watched. From a distance, through windows or doorways, she watched how Skylar's shoulders relaxed when Terence praised her ideas, how she leaned into his side during story time, eyes heavy but wide with joy. One Friday afternoon, Terence stayed back after the kids left. Vanessa was packing up markers and supplies. He moved slowly, giving her space. "You stayed late today," she said without looking up. "Skylar asked if we could finish the dinosaur app. I didn't want to say no." She nodded, then finally looked up. "She likes having you here. I like being here." A pause, then another. "You seem different," Vanessa said. "I am, or trying to be." "Why now, Terence?" He walked closer, but stopped short of her table. "Because I saw her, Skylar. And I saw you, and I realized that everything I chased, status, wealth, approval, none of it mattered if I wasn't part of this." Vanessa studied him. "And if I never let you all the way back in, then I'll still show up. I'll still support her. And you, because it's the right thing." Her lips parted slightly. That was new. No rebuttal, no sting. She simply said, "We'll see." Spring melted into summer. The community center ran a family day at a local park. Barbecue grills, music, relay races. Terence brought juice boxes and his awkward dance moves. Vanessa wore a sundress. Skylar wore butterfly wings. At one point, Skylar tugged Vanessa toward Terence. "Can we all sit together, please?" They did, on a blanket under a tree. Terence handed Skylar a snack. Vanessa sipped her lemonade, quiet but present. Terence didn't push conversation. He let the breeze fill the silence. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, Skylar lay across both their laps, dozing. "She calls you Mr. T," Vanessa whispered. He chuckled. "I like it. She asks about you, what you do, what you like. If you like chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin." Terence looked at her. "What do you tell her?" "The truth. That we knew each other a long time ago. That you made a mistake. That you're trying now. And you? What do you believe, Vanessa?" She stroked Skylar's hair. "I believe time reveals things. People, intentions, love." Weeks passed. One Saturday morning, Vanessa opened her door to find Terence holding a box. "What's this?" "Something for Skylar. For you, too." Inside the box was a printed children's book, self-published. Title, Skylar the Bold. Vanessa opened it. The pages showed a little brown girl with puff ponytails, building apps, painting murals, climbing trees. Skylar walked up, yawning. "What's that, Mummy?" Terence knelt. "A book about a girl who's smart, kind, and fearless. Just like you." Skylar beamed. "She has my name. Because you inspired her." Vanessa closed the book gently. "Thank you." Terence stood. "I know it doesn't erase anything, but I wanted her to see herself." Vanessa nodded. "You're learning." "Because you're teaching me." That night, Skylar insisted on reading the book 3 times. By the 3rd time, she whispered, "Can Mr. T come to my school next week? We're making paper cities." Vanessa texted him the next day. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Room 12. Terence replied instantly, "I'll be there." And he was. He sat with glue on his fingers, cutting little trees and helping Skylar build a robot ice cream shop. Her classmates giggled. Her teacher smiled. Vanessa stood at the door, arms crossed, heart unsure. but softening. By September, Terence had become a fixture at pickups, drop-offs, volunteer days. He never stayed overnight, never crossed boundaries. But he was present, and Skylar adored him. One Sunday, Vanessa found him teaching Skylar to ride a bike. She clapped when Skylar pedaled 3 feet on her own. Skylar cheered. "I did it." Terence high-fived her. "You sure did, champ." Vanessa smiled. "Good job, baby." Terence looked at her. "You ready for your turn?" She laughed. "A real one." "That depends. Are you going to hold the seat for me too?" "Always." By October, the chill returned to Baltimore, but something had thawed between them. One evening, after Skylar fell asleep, Vanessa invited him in. She poured tea. They sat at the kitchen table. "You know, I used to imagine you showing up like this," she said. "Yeah? But in my daydreams, you always brought flowers and big speeches. And in reality, you brought juice boxes and glue sticks." He laughed softly. "Sorry to disappoint." She shook her head. "You didn't. Turns out, juice boxes are better." He reached across the table, not to touch her, just to be close. "I want more. Not just with Skylar, with you. If you'll let me." Vanessa exhaled. "I'm still scared." "Me too, but I'd rather be scared together than apart." Their hands met in the center of the table, and stayed there. Halloween came. Skylar dressed as a coding superhero, cape, goggles, and a cardboard laptop. Vanessa went as a supportive mom with sneakers and a candy bag. Terence, a confused robot dad with blinking lights taped to his shirt. They trick-or-treated as a trio. At one point, a neighbor asked, "Is this your family?" Vanessa glanced at Terence, at Skylar, yes, and meant it. By Thanksgiving, they shared more than holidays. They shared mornings, inside jokes, burnt pancakes. One night, after Skylar fell asleep, Terence whispered, "You're everything I never knew I needed." Vanessa replied, "You had to lose me to see me." He nodded. "But now, I won't let go." She stepped into his arms, and this time, she didn't pull away. 1 week later, Skylar drew a family portrait for school. 3 stick figures, 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small with butterfly wings. She labeled them Mummy, Mr. T. Me. Her teacher asked, "Who is Mr. 2? Skylar smiled. "He's the one who stayed." The morning sun spilled over the Baltimore skyline as Terence paced the floor of his rented apartment. The past few months had been a slow but healing blend of redemption and rebuilding. He had moved closer to Vanessa and Skylar, not forcing his way in, but staying. Near, showing up consistently. The cracks in Vanessa's armor hadn't sealed over with words, they softened only with presence, with effort, with proof. Today, though, everything felt different. Terence had been nominated for a major award, Tech Vision's Innovator of the Year. The ceremony was in D.C. at the Marriott Marquis, but that wasn't what had him pacing. It was the moment that was scheduled right before the ceremony, a private lunch with investors and media partners. The same types who once made him believe Vanessa wasn't enough. The same types he had laughed with at her expense. He had declined the lunch. And instead, he'd sent Vanessa an invite, a private brunch on the rooftop garden of the National Gallery. Vanessa hadn't answered yet. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Terence got a text, "I'll meet you there." The rooftop garden was quiet, breezy, kissed by the scent of fresh peonies and lavender. Terence stood beside a reserved table draped in white linen. No media, no photographers, no applause. Just him, and then her. Vanessa stepped into view wearing a cream-wrap dress and flats. Her afro puff bounced slightly as she walked, and her gaze was calm but unreadable. Terence pulled out her chair. She sat. He sat across. "I expected a gala pitch," she said softly. "I pitched to you instead," he replied. "You matter more." There was a silence as delicate as glass. "I'm not a test," Vanessa said. "You don't prove you've changed by choosing me over a lunch meeting." "I know. I'm just tired of performing for rooms that don't see me." You saw me before I even saw myself. Vanessa blinked. And you buried that version of me. I did. He reached into his pocket, not for a ring, but for something else. A folded sheet of paper. This is a grant I'm launching. It's in Skylar's name. It'll fund scholarships for girls in STEM from single-mother households. Vanessa scanned it quickly. Why show me this? Because I don't want Skylar to grow up believing success means hiding love, or choosing profit over people. She looked up, voice barely above a whisper. And what about us? Terence leaned forward. If you say no to us, I'll still support you. I'll co-parent. I'll show up. I'll donate. I'll help build everything Skylar dreams. But if there's a sliver of space left for me, I'll fill it with respect, loyalty, and this time, full visibility. Vanessa didn't cry. She stared at him long and hard. Then she nodded once. 3 months later, Terence stood in front of a packed auditorium. But this time, the moment wasn't about awards. It was Skylar's kindergarten graduation. He held a small bouquet of wildflowers. His eyes searched the crowd. There, Vanessa, in a polka dot dress, smiling at him as Skylar ran across the stage in her cap and sparkly shoes. When Skylar received her diploma, she turned, found her parents, and waved both arms. "Mommy, Daddy," and it echoed. That night, as they walked home together, Skylar skipping ahead, Terence whispered to Vanessa, "Thank you for letting me earn this." Vanessa reached for his hand. "Thank you for staying long enough to mean it." A year passed. They didn't rush marriage. They built habits, cooked dinners, took Skylar to museums, argued, then learned how to apologize. One Sunday morning, Skylar, now 6, climbed into bed between them, holding a crayon drawing. It was them. 3 figures under a house labeled "Our Home." Terence smiled. "You forgot one thing." Skylar tilted her head. "What?" He pointed. "We need a puppy." Vanessa laughed. "You just want to avoid proposing." Terence sat up. Actually, he reached into the drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. Opened it. Vanessa's eyes widened. "Not because we need it to feel real, but because I want to honor what already is. Will you marry me?" Skylar jumped. "Say yes, Mummy." Vanessa nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I will." 6 months later, under a canopy of lights in their Baltimore backyard, Vanessa and Terence exchanged vows. Vanessa wore a simple white dress. Skylar was the flower girl and the ring bearer. Their vows weren't long. "Terence, I once walked away from you, and I've spent every day since learning how to walk back. Thank you for opening the door." "Vanessa, I once had to build a life alone. Now I choose to share it with the man who learned how to stand beside me, not in front of me." The guests applauded. And when they kissed, it wasn't just a fairy tale moment. It was a testament, a full circle life. Not perfect, but earned. What would you have done if you were Vanessa? Would you let a man who once mocked your existence become part of your daughter's life? Or would you walk away, even if his remorse felt real? Let us know in the comments. Your voice matters. And that's how life teaches us. Sometimes, the people who mock us in public end up needing our grace in private. Vanessa didn't get revenge. She got peace. She got stability. She got someone who came back, not with excuses, but with actions. And Skylar? She grew up knowing that people change when they're ready. And that love is never about perfection. It's about truth, choice, and staying. Share this story with someone who believes people can change, but knows that self-worth comes first. Subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories if this touched your heart. We tell stories that echo real life, where love, loss, and loyalty meet. We see you, we respect you, and we tell stories for you.